Hello there, YouTube. Today we are going to be working on something interesting here. Carnivorous plants, specifically Venus flytrap care. So we're going to make gorgeous setups like this. This one I've had for over 2 years. Very luscious. This one's a bit newer. Still a bit going through shock a bit. Not the best lighting. Still not the best. Yeah, this little guy is going to be getting its own setup. Because this is not a good enclosure. Now, the three main things about carnivorous plant care. Number one. Always use some kind of filtered water that does not have any additives. There's some little filter here using some aquarium supplies. It pretty much removes chlorine and a few other things. I don't have any water on me, so yeah, you just pour water through here, comes out here, basically the thing you made in middle school or elementary school. Or anyway, I need that, some sphagnum, some substrate, some reservoir layer stuff here. For this, I usually use aquarium gravel, but I am currently out of that, so I'm using some play sand instead. You should recommend using a little aquarium gravel, like how fine this stuff is. See all those little pebbles? And you also need a layer to separate the substrate from the rocks. Okay, and 2 containers. Doing this downstairs a bit for reasons. Number one, it's really noisy in my aquarium room. So, step 1. You have to sterilize the moss. To do that, you put on hot water, run it through that. First, let me actually remove some of this stuff here. Just going to put in that temporarily. Just basically turn the hot tap on only. Put the moss in through it. Make sure you do a lot of moss because it compacts when wet a bit. And basically, we're going to go ahead and rinse it off with using hot dechlorinated anti-mineral deposit water using the filtration that I have right here. It's basically just a mixture of sand, which prevents it from flowing as quick, but helps being much more efficient. Some of more of that gravel stuff and bioactive carbon. And also, for the hole in the bottom, there's just some aquarium filter fiber. That should be about enough. Right back once this is a good and rinsed. And I'll also show you why. Anyway, it's all soaking here, and as you can see, there's a bit of water between. And not sure if you can see it well, but it looks a little yellowish. That's usually tans and stuff, but also impurities and stuff that the plants don't like. And shit, I just spilled some of it. Well, no one said you can ever do this and not get wet. So anyway, we're just going to sit there and let it soak a bit, absorb some of that water. So basically what's going on is the water is diluting the impurities and removing it slowly while it sits. We'll just prod a bit, get to squeeze in there. Hot. Let's see if I can get this to look a bit clearer. Yellow here. Even if it is just pure tannins, the carnivorous plants I grow don't seem to like it very much, so therefore I usually go about filtering it out. I'm pretty sure there's something else in there too that's also not, that they don't really like. And just so you know, tannins are something that lower pH of the water and pretty much turn hard water into soft water. But there's a lot of minerals and stuff, and acetic acids and stuff. Carnivorous plants aren't a fan of the mineral parts. From my understanding, roughly. See that the water looks a little yellow. I'm not sure if the coloring is going to be picked up well. Yeah. So that's not a good thing. So what we're left with is this much sphagnum. Huh. Also, I thought I'm gonna have to go back and do that one more time. And I'm gonna go dump this water out. Come back to you with the next one. Next part. I'll screw the gloves, my hands are clean. Wait, the filter media I'm going to be using is this, but you can also use some aquarium filter fiber as well. Well, anyway, let's get started. This is going to be the container, so I'll be using it, by the way, so we got to remove the moss here. So I'm going to squeeze it out here, just to make sure there's not as much water as there, just to make sure I get the majority of the water out. Nice and compacted. Stop falling apart on me, sphagnum. Anyway, now that that's done, quickly run and dump this out. Usually a rule for terrarium building is use about, for a layer like this, which is a reservoir so the water doesn't become stagnant, doesn't become moldy, use probably about this much water for that much. But the issue is, these guys love being waterlogged, so you just put as much water as you can in there, basically. So right now that that's drained, dump it out again. Doesn't matter necessarily if this is cleaned out fully right now. Next, we're going to add some play sand. I'm also going to rinse it out here in a minute as well. Now you do that as the same process as the other one, basically. You just waterlog it and then drain it. Let's use about this much play sand for this size container. Just a nice little water reservoir. I do this because it helps retain some level of water longer. Because instead of it all going in a sphagnum where it would dry, where it could potentially dry out after a bit, instead it has a place set underneath the area, underneath the sphagnum. Therefore, it's not all absorbed at once. Anyway, time to go rinse this off. While I am using play sand, this is the first time I'm using this, so I would not recommend using it. Honestly, I'd recommend using the aquarium gravel. This is just a little test for me. So anyway, honestly, because of the fact this play sand might not even need a divider. It's good to keep any impurities out of the sphagnum. For a lot of people, they have this over the other thing, so therefore, probably going to be using this for the video. Basically, you just want to take it and just stretch it out. And just shuffle it in. That's actually what I did for this one. I used some of it, if you can see. It's kind of right there. But yeah. Then we add some sphagnum. Make sure it's nice and compacted. Because like I said, these things love being waterlogged, and they also shouldn't be too aerated, considering the fact sphagnum brings up moisture, and these things apparently don't like their roots being too aerated, from my experience, because I can't even seem to kill this one if I tried. I'm definitely going to need more sphagnum. Basically, then we put, or I'll show you here in a minute. See, we're just compressing it nice and down to the point where that is squished like a pancake. See, nice and squished. Just see a little sliver of it. The reason I said you should usually use hot water is because the hot water sterilizes it by killing any bacteria and stuff that could harm the plant. It also helps things dissolve faster. So the water basically, absorbs the mineral deposits and stuff that could potentially be in there quicker. Next step, before we add the rest of this little moss here, is to prep the plant. Just I'm going to take these little tongs. They used to have orange tips. Got rid of those because they were useless because they were damaged enough. Remove the plant. Now, as you can see, there's this little casing around it of fabric. And most people might want to keep it on. But for me... crap, my phone's going to die soon. Okay, so basically we're just going to remove it. It should just come right off. It's usually filled with some level of peat. I'm probably going to use a lot of the sphagnum from it and stuff. Looks like it's mostly peat moss. Which means we're going to remove a lot of it. Peat is just as good as sphagnum, but there are different things to it. I prefer sphagnum for a few different reasons, but either way, it's not looking too green, which is the thing you want. No, there's a bit of life. That's good. And now that we did that, let's remove any dead parts. You can tell if they're dead because, number one, they're black, but also not all black parts are dead. If they come off easily with just a slight little pull without much effort, they're dead. But things like this that won't really come off, still alive. Yeah, that's still alive. It's just basically dormant and not really doing much right now. So you can see otherwise it's a fairly healthy trap. Got lots of little heads. Actually, there might be two of them in here. Holy crap, there is two. Huh. But yeah, so anyway. Now back to this. We're going to take these guys and put them right into the substrate. Just make little divots. Just kind of rest them in there. We're going to take some sphagnum and just kind of break it up and kind of move it around there because I squeezed it. It is kind of compacted. We're just going to sit there and try to compress it and build it up around them. Let's try doing this one at a time, actually. So let's put you on this on one side. And then let's just build some sphagnum around you. Push it in beside the leaves. Careful not to push the heads down. Another piece. Put you right there. Just building it up around. That's all we're doing. Make sure it's nice and compacted. Which we're going to do a bit more after we add water to it. Now some for the other one. We'll take it, just put in a bit of loose, kind of wedge it in between the two. You want to make sure a bit of the base is buried. So just the tops are showing a bit, because that's how they are in the wild. Our plants, now we're going to go ahead and add some water and then compact it a bit. We're going to fill it up so the water goes up to about here on this. And the reason why they're not up here or down here is because we need it to absorb some of the water, so that way we can compact it easier. And they, like I said before, they love sitting in water. This will be the reservoir that's also water retentive. This is a barrier between the water retentive reservoir and the actual substrate. And, yep, and then we're just going to add some more moss as we see fit to it after we do that. And here we have it. We have a bit of leftover sphagnum. I'm probably going to use for something else, but yeah. These guys basically will look like they're dying for a bit, but then they'll bounce right back. That's what happened with this guy. He was basically looked like he was about dead. Most of his leaves were brown and dead, black and dead. But then there were still some green sprouts. As long as there's still at least one green sprout, they can come back. And which they usually will, because these guys are very, well, deal with a lot of stress. You just gotta relax, just make sure they have water. Make sure they're good. Like, see how this thing has some water that's moving about? Yep, that's good. This guy has some water, and if you notice, the moss looks like it's starting to come back to life on that. Either that or it's algae. But yeah, that's it for this tutorial on carnivorous plant care. And see you later.